We've got a bream. That is what we need. That is absolutely nailed in that bottom lip again. They are what we need. Well, good morning everybody, welcome to round 5 of the Poolsbrook Country Park Autumn Series. We've got a big bright shiny thing in the sky, I can't believe it. This is the first time I've been here and it hasn't been raining. This is round 5, so that means that after today is only one final round, which is next week. And I have filmed the previous 4 rounds of this series for you. They are all been filmed as live matches for you right here on this channel, and it's been a very interesting autumn series. It's a venue I don't really know, and I know that it has been dominated with pole fishing. However, I decided to come here a few weeks ago and just see if I could catch enough weight on the feeder to try and compete with the pole anglers. And it's been a very interesting series so far. I've learned so much, and even by the 3rd round I had completely changed my approach. It is a weight competition, and currently I am £2 off 3rd place. It's cumulative weight over 6 rounds, but you do drop your worst weight, so it's still wide open at this stage. So I know I need to catch big fish, and that's very much reflected in my approach. However, this morning you could probably see the mist on the lake behind me. The temperature has dropped. It's literally half the temperature of what it was here last Sunday. So whilst I know I need bigger fish, and a lot of that has been revolving around the method feeder, I've got to be aware today that if it is going to fish harder, then I am going to also need to think about using a conventional feeder as well, if I just need to get a few bites, if it is going to be a lower weight match. So we're fishing 10:30 until 3:30. We're just about to draw, so hopefully I'd like to draw on this bank. I've only been on this bank once, and I was right the way around that corner. That was in round 1. But round 2, 3 and 4, I've been over there on that bank. But this area has been quite consistent here. And there has been the odd peg just here, which is in the 20s. So I'm going to go and draw my peg, and I'll see you down at the peg. Once I see it, then I can talk you through the approach. Because I'm not 100% sure about what I'm going to do yet. But I know that I need some weight. I need some bigger fish. And so I will be targeting some bigger skimmers and hopefully some bream. Well, I was just saying that I fancied a different scenery today, and I haven't got it. I'm heading back over to that other bank again where I have been in previous matches. Peg 5. So I think in the last 4 matches, I think I had, what have I had? 3, 4, 5, 6, I think, something like that. But anyway, so I'm back over that other side. So familiar territory. But having said that, there were some weights there last week. You know, I was amongst some fish. They weren't particularly easy to catch. But it is much cooler today, and it's all about getting weight. So I'm going to get driven round there, make sure Dad's okay. I can drop my gear off at my peg there, which is a bonus. I'll get set up and I'll talk you through the approach. Familiar territory. Peg 5. That's where Lee Coop was on the last match, when it rained all day. Exactly the same peg as last week. So there's the cage, or the floating raft, cage, whatever you want to call it. That does fluctuate. It does move. Last week I didn't realise how much it was moving. It was moving. Where it is now, that's as far over to the right as it'll go. And it will go to the left by up to 1.5 meters. Remember that from last week, and that is a feature basically. I had to adjust my lines last week. So very different conditions. There isn't any wind at the moment. Like I say, it did rain last week throughout the match, but it's going to be very similar to last week, with a couple of tweaks as regards. I think last week I focused very heavily on the method feeder. I had the best weights, I think, just here on the feeder only. I think all the other weights were on the pole. It's quite rocky here close in, so it's very, very difficult to find a spot to fish an underarming line, which has been of an important line. I couldn't find a spot last week. My shortest line was next to that cage, so again it looks like I'm not going to have the option of an underarming line, but I will put a bomb down there just to see if I can get lucky and find a spot. So yeah, all my rods are set up, my bait's just about done, so I'll get set up and just talk you through exactly how I'm going to approach it once I'm on the peg. Well, I'm pretty sure I'm going to fish the same lines as last week. One was where the cage is and the other one was further out into that open water. Now, one of the things that could make a big difference today is that the angler on my right is not going to fish the feeder. When I was here last week, on peg 6 was Lee Coop, who's a very, very good feeder angler. And he started on the feeder and he certainly fished the first hour and a half or so on the feeder. He caught a few fish, he had one particularly good run of fish. However, having two anglers casting out there at that 30 metres sort of a range, you can be sharing fish or cancelling each other out. So one of the key things I'm hoping for today is that I'm going to be out there without anybody to my right fishing a feeder, and that is obviously could work in my favour. One thing that we did notice is that last week there were one or two fish topping out there or rolling. They weren't bream, we don't even know what they were, but there were signs of fish out there within that range. I haven't seen one fish today, and lots of the fish that I caught last week came, if you saw the film, came very quickly. You know, I honestly felt that a lot of the fish were following the feeder down. Even on the method feeder, even when I could just lightly put the pellets and the ground bait around the feeder, I caught 2 or 3 fish almost while I was tightening up, you know. If these fish aren't up in the water like they were last week, then I might have to be a little bit more patient. So that's the key thing. I'm really hoping that I'm going to have that feeder line to myself. The angler on my left, he's plumbing up on a pole right now as well, so I'm obviously hoping that that's going to make my longer line stronger. So I'm going to fish the same 2 lines that I fished last week, which was next to the cage, which worked out where it was clean just before the rocks start. I think it was exactly 20 metres. I'll clip up at 20, I think it's 20 or 19, and that's just past those little bit of rocks and stuff, just where it's nice and clean. And I did probably catch half of my weight on that line last week. And the other line, because that short line's 20 metres, my longer line I pushed out to 32 metres last week. So that is those 2 lines taken care of. The only big issue I've got, the big issue, is that short line. I really need a short line, one, 5-6 metres. There's been a lot of fish caught there, but I'm pretty certain that there isn't a clear spot on this peg for me to do that with a feeder. But I am going to spend 5 or 10 minutes with a bomb on, just to see if I can get lucky and find a clean spot, because that means I've got 3 lines then, and that short line obviously is there for later on when sometimes these fish do come in. If not, I'm just going to have to do what I did last week and focus on those 2 lines out there and forget about any short fish. I could have left my line clips on from last week, couldn't I, if I'd known. This is just, well, it's a slim. That's what I'm going to be fishing on both lines, on the short, that 20 metre line and the 32 metre line. But just clipped a 20, oh no, it's a 30 gram bottle bomb. Just going to have 5 minutes just having a little plumb around just to see if I can find a clean spot. Oh, did I get lucky there? I'll try that again, haven't I? Bang in line with that climbing frame or whatever it is. Anywhere from there and back by about 1 metre. Well, I don't know if I've got lucky there. I only did this a couple of times last week on this peg, and both times I got my bomb stuck. That'd be great if I can feed that line, or well, fish it. I can feed it, it's whether I can fish it or not. Might be a different ball game once I put a hook length on. Can't believe that to me already. Oh, that's locked up there. Those first 3 pulls through seemed as though I might have a chance. Obviously I can feed this. I don't need to put a specialist, a specific rod up for this line. That could be doable, I think. Just try it slightly to the left. Yeah, I don't need a specific rod to do this. I could just use one of the rods that I'm already, that locked up a bit there. It doesn't seem as bad though. Let me just try it a little bit further that way. Doesn't seem as bad. I know it's different once you put a feeder on and a hook length, but that might give me a chance. Yeah, it is getting stuck a bit. Just give it another 5 minutes. I'm just going to have a little play around and make a decision on that, and then I can get my other rods out and just get them clipped up, because I'm pretty sure I know exactly what ranges I'm fishing. Well, I think that might give me half a chance of being able to fish that just by fishing the feeder to hand, as it were, and so that could be an option. So I'm definitely going to be feeding it. I'm going to try it. I'm going to have a short hook length line anyway, so now forgetting about that, I can just get clipped up now at those two ranges. So I'm sure this is 20 metres. I'm going to clip up at 20, see how it is in relation with that cage, make sure the bottom's nice and clean, the cage there, make sure the bottom's nice and clean, and then my other line is 32 metres, which I know that is already clean. This is a completely different day from how it was last week, when it was dark and cloudy and raining all day. It's really, really nice now, really pleasant. Hopefully we're going to catch a few better stamp fish today and get a better weight. I'm surrounded by pole anglers by the looks of it. I know Mark on my left, he has put a feeder up, but with the nature of where he's casting, it's miles away from me, so I've got a lot of confidence in finding a few fish out there. It's just whether it's going to be better to fish with a conventional rig with pinkies, chopworm and all that sort of thing, or whether it's going to be down the method feeder route. So I'm going to start on a conventional just to see if there's some fish out there. Probably start on double pinky, something like that, just to see if we can get some bites. If those little tiny perch appear, which have been a problem on here, then I can always switch that to the method feeder. One thing that, let me just go, I've just got Dad's station set, there we go. I'm sure he'll be venturing out of the van today to come down and sit with me. One of the key things from last week was that when one of my lines started slowing down, so for example I went on a line after a rest, I'd get a fish, and then you might get one second cast, and then you might get an indication. What happened was, when that was happening, particularly on that longer line, I kind of gave it loads and loads of time to recover, loads of time to get another fish on it. And looking back in hindsight, I don't know, just like with everything in fishing, I think I left it a little bit too long to change lines. I think perhaps when that line starts to go, maybe just put a bit of bait on it, rest it, and then have a quick switch to the other line. So that's something that I'm going to be very mindful of today. I'm not going to keep flogging a line, hoping that the other line is going to take longer to get going, because I got the feeling that when the fish came over the feed, or there were one or two there, it felt like there were only a couple of fish there. You were never going to go on it and catch 10 in 10 casts. I don't think it's that sort of a venue. So that's a key change from last week's match. And other than that, the only key change really is that 5 metre line. There is one other thing that I'm going to do different today, and this is purely because, not because I know anything, it's purely because I need better stamp fish. I don't think pinkies are going to hold them, I know that, or maggots, and that's because there's so many little tiny perch out there. I want to stay away from those baits. So I have got micro pellets again, because they're the ones that I'll be using in the method feeder. Alright, those are, let me just show you, because there's a million different sorts out there. Those ones, just the Fin Perfect feed pellets, no flavourings or anything like that. So I've got those for the method feeder, plenty there. So I'm hoping they're going to help hold some better fish, or at least hold skimmers. And that seems to have worked really well the last 2 weeks. Alright, the same groundbait mix as the last two matches. So that's the Match Method Dark on its own. There's quite a bit of pellets in there. It's all about fishing for bigger fish now. I've got some dead pinkies, not live, if I do need them. I don't want wriggling pinkies, because it's just, whenever I've done it before, it's attracted those tiny little fish. I've got assorted micro wafters there. Okay, I like to put them in a tub like that, just because it's easier to pick out the colour that you want with it being a more open tub. I don't transport them in that, I transport them in little tubs like those, the Matrix ones. Alright, it's just with that being a smaller diameter, it's just quicker and easier to pick out the colour from a tub like that. And then finally, the one key thing that I've done is I've introduced that. I'm hoping this is going to help me hold some fish in the peg, or hold some, either one or two better bream there. There are a few rogue tension here that have been getting caught, and I've got the option of putting that on a hair rig, just a single grain. Alright, so I think you'll agree that, if you compare this live match to my very, very first live match when I drew over there on the first round, it's a very, very different approach, and that's because I need some weight. I need some better stamps on them big skimmers, and hopefully some bream as well. couple of minutes before the off, and still haven't seen any fish moving out there. It's flat calm, as you can see, but it's a really nice day, to be fair. It's a lovely autumn day. I'm going to put 3 feederfuls out long, so my long line is 32 metres. I'm going to put 3 feederfuls out there, just with a nice quick emptying cage, one that I can be really nice and accurate with. I'm going to put the first one in with just ground bait, just to get something there. So the second one I'm going to put in with some chopped worm and some corn and some pellets, and then the third one I'm going to empty about, you know, halfway down, just to get some bit of a cloud there, and then that swim will have, you know, 2, 3, 4 minutes rest whilst I feed my 20-metre line next to that cage. I'm going to feed that a little bit heavier. I'm going to feed that with 4 feederfuls, but with a few more freebies in there, because I'm not hopefully going to be going on that line for the first half hour at least. So I just want to set that line up, and I'm not going to, like I say, I'm not going to spend as long on a line that's slowed down today. I'm just going to try and rotate a little bit more frequently and just see if that's going to just up my catch rate, basically, so that, you know, my first visit back on a line after a rest, if we can catch a couple of fish, that's great. If it then dies, I'm not going to waste too much time on that. I'm going to top it back up and then switch back to the other line. That's the plan anyway. And I'll see if those small fish are going to be a problem. If they are, then I will be spending more time on the method feeder. Wet that braid. That's it. Done. Just got a free running rig. Exactly the same setup as last week. 11-foot slim. Braid. Almost direct. I've just got a 1 metre leader. 8-pound shot leader there. Just a free running rig. Simple as that. It's all I'm fishing. This is obviously the conventional rig. The other rig I'll show you, but it's exactly the same reel, and that's it. Good luck, lads. The reel and braid and everything's the same. The only difference is that one's got a method feeder on it. So I'm just going to put one out there with just ground bait first. I'm going to count this feeder down. That's 32 metres. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just under 5. So I now know if I want to open one up at half depth, then I can just count down to probably 2 seconds and then empty it, and then I know it's around half depth. So this one, see the bait there that's going in, just the baits that we've just said. I'll try and make sure that these empty right on the spot now, so I'll pack them so they're going to empty on the bottom as neat as possible. So on the target, let that one hit the bottom. I'm just going to give that a second or two, just to let that water get to the ground bait. I think what I'm going to do is in the next one, I'm just going to put a few micros, just because they'll fall through the water, just to hopefully draw something in. Right, now just empty that feeder where it is. Check it out. It empties right on the line clip. And this one I'm going to empty halfway down, so I'm not going to squeeze this one quite as tight. This will just put some cloud into the water, or the cloud with the ground bait, and just a nice little feathering, a sprinkling of a few micros falling through the water as well, which will hopefully draw a fish in, ready for that first cast. Clip 1, 2, that's it. It looks a lot closer to that 20-metre line than last week. I think that's because it's flat calm. Lads are cupping in bait all around me. So just going to pop that down there, out of the way. The other rod for the short line is a slightly different rod, this one. This is an XRS light feeder. It's only a 30 gram rated rod, so it's lovely and soft. It's got a 3/4 ounce tip in it. So again, I'll put some worm in. This is the line that I'm not going to be fishing for at least half an hour. A few micros in there. I'm definitely going to put some corn in. Really need to try and attract 1 or 2 better stamp fish today. There we go, there's loads of bait in there. Now I'm casting to a 4-bank marker on this line. I'm not casting to the cage, because that cage is over to the left at the minute. And where that lands, hit that clip a bit harder than I wanted to. But that line that's on, that is as far over as that cage is actually going to come over this way. So when the cage does swing back this way, I'm still going to be able to cast to that spot, if that makes sense. Some more bait ready. You can see the line that Mark's fishing on there, miles away from me. Complete contrast from last week when I was only a few meters from Lee's feeder line, who was on peg 6 on my right. See quite a bit of bait going in there. I'm going to put 4 in on this one. Not all packed with bait, there's only a bit of bait in there. I've got duplicate setup, alright, so I've got a conventional rig for the long line and a method feeder rig for that line, and exactly the same on this 20 metre line. I've got a method feeder clipped up at 20 metres, and then I've got this conventional feeder set up as well. A few micros in there. Think about trying to hold fish today, better stamp fish. And I've got a feeling, I mean, I don't know if Mark on my left is going to start on the feeder. I've got a feeling he might. Certainly the lad on my right, he's not even going to be fishing a feeder, so I might just be sat listening to them shipping small fishing all day. Just going to put one more on this line, just with sprinkling pellets, micros. I'll be confident that if I am going on that in half an hour, it'll still be some bait there, even if I've had a visit in that time. Not any fish moving. There's the odd tiny little, I'm assuming the tiny little roach topping all over it, not all over, but anyway, you know, there's been probably a dozen while I've been here, but they're only tiny little fish. That's it. That's that line fed. I haven't seen anything out in the middle. So I'm going to start on conventional. I've got a hook length ready and a cup of coffee. Just going to kick off with, I'll probably put 3 pinkies on. 3 bright fluoro dead pinkies. Nice bright bait. Just to see if there's anything out there. Last week I did get a skimmer first cast on this, and then it just completely died. So I'm just going to change that feeder for a different style feeder, and then just clip that hook length on. It should only take a few seconds. I've cut this hook length down. All these hook lengths that on these spools are 50 centimetres. I've cut it down to 30, so that I've still got a bit of a drop there, you know, if they are going to be taking it on the drop, but it's not too long that I've got loads of line laid on the bottom, because if these fish aren't moving much, if they are going to be grazing skimmers or bream, you know, sometimes you don't see the bite. 3 dead pinkies, there we go. I'm going to put any bait, well, just ground bait, because I've no idea how it's going to fish. Well, there's a few micros in there, to be honest, but no idea how it's going to fish, so I'll get this out there. One thing I haven't got ready, got where my marker was then. There we go, is the stopwatch, which I will get out, just so I've got an idea. I can monitor my casts, so I've got an idea of how long. There we go. Screw that on there in a second. On that leg. I'm probably just going to give it about 3 to 5 minutes, really. Probably 5 minutes if I don't get any signs. Like I said last week, I had quite a few fish, not loads of fish, but a high percentage of my fish quite quickly as the rig was settling, just as though they'd followed it down. But like I said last week, there were more fish showing, so there obviously were fish up in the water last week because we saw them. So that's it, settled in now. I'm going to give this 30 minutes. Give it 30 minutes, see how it is, regardless. Even if I don't get a bite, I'm still going to give it 30 minutes. Just to give that shorter line time to just settle in. There we go. Wow, that was a fast bite, wasn't it? God, that was like lightning. I hooked it. So yeah, I want to give this line 30 minutes just to see how it goes. And if it's not producing what we want, then obviously I can have a look on that short line, and then that's it then. I'll just settle into rotating lines. I don't know what this is going to be, if it's a little roach or a... There we go. Roach, not the target. And definitely not the stamp that we need. So if these fish are going to be an issue, then that's why I've got the method feeder set up. you know, I could try bigger pieces of worm and that sort of stuff. So yeah, we're off the mark anyway. Well, we've been fishing 23 minutes. I've had 4 casts on that conventional rig. Only had that little roach and 1 fast indication. There weren't any signs of small fish. I've just picked the method feeder rod up and gone out there, and this has been out there 3 minutes without any sort of indication. I've had a pull and then a drop back and we're into a skimmer. Not very good netting there, but there we go, we're off the mark. Not one of the big ones, but it's a skimmer. Brilliant, right in the middle of the bottom lip. Fantastic. That's encouraging. We're off the mark now. Skimmer number 1. Just for your information, on this peg last week, I think I caught £14, I think it was. I actually had 16 skimmers, different sizes. So we're off the mark. Just a few pellets there, as you can see. Mini wafter there in the middle. Like I say, it's the interesting thing is they're not catching loads on the pole. I think a lot of my rights only had 2 little fish. I haven't heard Mark on my left catch any. So it's a very different start from previous matches, because usually they'd be catching little fish right from the off. So maybe that cold weather and the rain and stuff either slowed them down, or they might be further out, I don't know. But whatever happens, really encouraging. Well, the cast after that last skimmer, within seconds of the feeder going in, a duck went across the braid and completely ruined that setup. Moved the feeder and everything, and the very next cast exactly the same happened. Another duck came across. So the last 2 casts have really been a bit wasted. So I just thought I'd have 1 more cast on this before I had a look on that short line. And I've got another skimmer, a little bit bigger that one. Hooks come out. So I'm glad I had that another cast on that. I'd only been out there a couple of minutes, so I've got to have another cast, haven't I? If I do end up staying on this line longer than planned, then, you know, as you'd expect, I will just put a feeder full in on that short line just to keep it alive. That'll be the ideal scenario if I can keep catching on this. But that's 2 skimmers we've got now. Both come on the method feeder, and both a tiny bit to the right, that one. And they both come in under 3 minutes. I don't like sinking the tip when I'm fishing for skimmers, to sink the line, because the bites on the skimmers, they're not like carp. If you've got your tip down under the water, with carp you just feel them because they take it, but with skimmers you're only getting that rattle or a drop back, and it's very easy not to miss the hook up properly, especially on a barbless hook. We've got 2 now, so just monitor this line, and obviously I'll keep that other line alive if I am going to stay on this. If not, I'm not going to dwell too long on this line. That was an indication then. I will just put a feeder full of bait out there, come off it, rest it, and have a look on that shorter line. This has been out there just over 2 minutes. It's gone again. This one's a better fish, this one. I'm not catching small fish on the pole, not that I know about. Still haven't seen any fish moving out there from that first 30-minute slow start. This last 2 or 3 casts, very encouraging. It's a bigger fish, this one. Big skimmer stroke bream. Like I say, I've got it all to myself out there at the moment. Mark has fed out there on my left. He has put at least a couple of feederfuls out there, which I think can only help. You know, if there's only my feed out there, that's a better fish. That's really encouraging now. So bottom of that middle lip again, brilliant to see. Even got the wafter back. And what we need to get the weights. Well, that's encouraging. We're on 3 now. I caught 16 last week. Try not to pack too many pellets in there on that first bed. conscious that there's going to be loads of pellets out there, and I've really no idea how many fish are out there. There we go. Get that out there. Bit of a breeze hitting it now. That'll help sink this braid as well before the next duck comes along. That's the last 10-15 minutes have been really encouraging. Just coming up to 5 minutes on this cast. I'm really not going to leave it any longer than that, because all of the fish have come in under 4 minutes, and that's kind of been a pattern pretty much every match on here. So that's 5 minutes now, so I'm just going to bring that one in. We've been fishing just over 3/4 of an hour now, so what I am going to do is I don't want to completely leave that short line. If I've had an arrival, the bait that I put in may have been mopped up, and I don't want that to go dead, so I'm just going to top that short line up. I'm not going to put any worm in, just a few pellets, just to keep something there on that line. But at the minute, I mean, I've only had one cast after this little spell where I haven't had a fish, so I've got to at least have a couple more casts on that long line. But that's all. I'm not going to, you know, flog it and flog it and flog it. If it needs a rest, it needs a rest. So just shake them pellets out, that ground bait. That keeps that line alive. Bit of a breeze coming now. Just see a movement there, right where my feeder. Well, it's slightly to the right, but it's bang on the same line. Don't think it was a big fish. So that tops that line up, buys me some more time. I've only had one cast on this without an indication on that last bit, so definitely it warrants at least a couple more casts, I think. The park's quite busy today, you know, with the weather being alright. There's lots of walkers and people walking dogs, horse riding, all sorts. So that's all the background noises. Dad's just gone back to the van because he's getting chilly. Just get that down there. That breeze should help sink the braid a little bit. But it's not an issue when the ducks and birds aren't there. It's only when they're there that it's an issue, with the braid being across the top or slow sinking. But it's only a 20 gram feeder I've got on as well. You know, it's the inter-size open method feeder which I've been catching on this lake. So it is quite easy to dislodge a feeder like that, you know. It's because it's not that heavy, so that's what I want to avoid. So we're on 3 skimmers, going just coming up to the 50-minute mark now. The lad on my right, I've only heard catch a couple of small fish on the pole. Mark, I've only heard probably, I think he's had 2 fish on my left, just fishing a top kit. So the good thing for me is at this stage is that the pole line, certainly, well, I only know about the anglers either side of me, the pole line isn't dominating like it has done in previous weeks, which may suggest that those fish just aren't feeding at the moment. Or what I would prefer is that the fish have moved out in the lake. You know, it has gone a tiny bit clearer than it has been, but if the fish are out of pole range, or they're more comfortable out there, or there's more numbers of them out there, then that should benefit me, obviously, fishing the feeder. So it's still early days. Just got to try and not rush it. You know, when you get cold nights in autumn, winter, you got to expect it to be a slow start. So even if bream are going to turn up, or big skimmers, quite often it might not be till the last hour. So you just don't want to blow your peg before then. Just be patient. And if you get a visit, then, you know, if you haven't done anything too daft with your feeding and stuff, then hopefully you're going to capitalise on it. One thing I have done, and I will show you me doing it, but I have just put the method feeder that I'm fishing, I've just filled it with pellets, and I've just put it on that spot that seems fishable. It's about 5 metres. With the feeder, I've just filled the feeder, two-handed it down on the bottom, emptied it. So, but that's all I've put there. Just a few micro pellets, nothing else. I don't want to go on that line and catch little tiny perch or roach. You know, I don't need them. I need better stamp fish, and they have been catching fish as close as that on here. Lee caught some on it on my right on the pole late on last week. So I'm only going to put pellets there, and I'm just going to drop on it with a method feeder. If that's been best for skimmers and bigger bream, then I've got to do it, and that'll be easier to fish if it is a bit rocky down there, rather than having a 30 centimetre hook length. Are you with me? So I'm just going to monitor these next 2 casts. if I don't get anything or any signs or any encouragement to stay on this line, I'll put a feeder full out there with a bit of bait in, and then have a look on that 20-metre line. Well, I was literally on my last cast on this long line. It's been out there just over 4 minutes, and without any indications, it's just had a really strong pull round. So I was just about to come off it and have a look at 20 metres, but I'm going to have another cast on it now, aren't I? I'm just considering feeding this line, putting a bit of corn out there, keep that corn going in. Not a lot, but keep it going in, and then hopefully by the second half I'll feel confident enough to try a grain on the hook to try and pick out bigger fish. But well, much better stamp. That's what we need. Right, bottom of the middle lip again. Definitely what we need. We don't need loads of bites if the stamp's there. So I've got to go back out there. Like I said, that took a little bit longer. The thing I'm conscious about, I'll be absolutely honest with you, and that is that if I am sticking to 5-minute casts, conscious that there's quite a lot of bait going out there, you know, quite a lot of pellets, but like I say, I don't really know what numbers of fish are out there. On some venues that's not a lot, but when you're not getting many bites. So I've just been trying to mix it up with a little bit of ground bait as well, just to try and make sure that I can still fill the feeder, but I'm not filling it and loading it with loads and loads of pellets, you know, just kind of watering it down, if you want to call it that, cutting it with ground bait. Unbelievably, I've just cast out there again without any indication in 5 minutes. We've got a bream. That is what we need. That is absolutely nailed in that bottom lip again. They are what we need. That last half hour has been fantastic. We've been fishing just over an hour. Keep some pellets going in on that short line. Got to keep it covered in case those pole lines kick in. Just moulding, loosely moulding pellets over there, out to my marker, just there. Doesn't do any harm. It takes a few seconds just to keep that alive. Just because they're not catching on the pole now doesn't mean to say they're not going to move in on it later on. We are into the final 90 minutes, and yes, there may have been a lack of action. That wind's got a little bit stronger. It's coming this way now. Don't know if that's going to make any difference, but literally I haven't caught a fish. I haven't caught a fish for the last hour and a half, which is very worrying. So I'm still stuck on 7 fish. However, I've gone onto that short line at 20 metres on my last visit. I haven't had an indication on it, and after 8 minutes I thought I'd give it a bit longer. The tip's gone round like this, and I picked up and I've just kind of come off something. So frustrated, and as I've looked up, that grebe that's been haunting me has come straight up on top of the feed, where the feeder is. So it had gone across my line, and so I went back out long again. I haven't had an indication out there, even with the conventional feeder. I could put 2 pinkies on, bits of worm, nothing at all. Not an indication even from small fish. So I put 2 feederfuls out there, and I thought I'd come back short again. And I've just gone on this, and first cast on it had a little rattle, like a small fish rattle. I picked up, there's nothing there. Gone in again, and I've had another indication. Picked up, nothing there. So I think they were small fish. But then I went in again, and for about a minute, the tip was doing this. Really, really slow. So obvious that they were liners. And it went on for about a minute, and then nothing. It settled back, and that was it. Never went. I left it another 2 or 3 minutes, never went. So that was definitely a fish there, not a small fish, you know. So that possibly means there's 1 or 2 fish milling around that cage there, but I still haven't caught on this line. So I'm still stuck on 7 fish. I haven't got a clue how that's faring. A lot of my rights just catching the odd small fish on the pole, but certainly not in the numbers that they have been in previous weeks. And Mark on my left is very quiet. You know, I'm not hearing anything from him. But as regards the rest of the lake, I haven't got a clue. Oh, that's annoying. Well, I can't say I didn't try. I really put everything into that. I have no idea why those fish vanished after that little run, after the first hour, 90 minutes or whatever it was. I don't know. Have I fed too much? We'll never know. But I haven't fed that much, to be fair. I'm just hoping that the few fish that I've got are going to give me enough weight to hopefully make ground on one or two of the people that are ahead of me. I was currently in 5th place in this league, but that's only £2 behind 3rd. So we don't know. We haven't heard anything about the rest of the lake. In hindsight, what would I do different? I don't know, but I think there's a strong argument for when it goes really cold for just going out into that open water, going out further. I haven't heard anything about anybody fishing out long, you know, 40, 50 metres. And on most of the venues that I fish, when they go hard in winter, especially when they start to go clearer, that is where you catch a fish. But I haven't heard about anybody doing it, and I haven't done it. So there's only one match left in this league. I don't know what weight I've got today. I've ended up with 6 skimmers and 2 bream, which I'm hoping has done well in the section. It'd be nice to get a section prize or something like that, or some money. But you know, I want to make up some ground on those leaders. But it's going to go right to the wire, because even with next week's weight, which is the final match, it is then down to your droppers. You do drop your worst weight. So until we know what everyone else's worst weight is, we're not going to know until right at the end of the league. I'm a little bit annoyed. Again, I've definitely fallen a bit short, and I think that's going to cost me. It's going to cost me in this league. I'm sure it is. Not for winning it. I'm nowhere near off winning it, and possibly not much chance of becoming 2nd, but certainly 3rd. I don't know what all the weights are over there. I mean, I've only had 8 fish. I've had 2 bream and 6 skimmers, but they've actually weighed £11.2, which is a bit more than what I thought, but it has fished hard. The top weight so far is down there, is Martin again. Martin, who's winning the league, and he's weighed £13, which is, I'm 1 fish away. There's been a £12 down there, and then there's my £11. Gary on my right has fished the pole. He was in 4th place so far going into this. He's weighed £4 on the pole, and Mark on my left has weighed £3. So I certainly haven't caught the numbers, but I've definitely caught the quality again, and that's the 3rd match on the trot since changing tactics to fishing the method. I've changed my mix to match method dark. I'm feeding pellets. It's 100% worked again, but again for the 3rd match in a row, I've had really long spells without fish, and that's going to cost me, and I don't know what to do about it. I don't know what it is. I don't know if I'm feeding too much. I don't know if I'm feeding not enough. I don't know. I haven't got a chance to come down here and practice and stuff, and there's only one match left anyway. So what I'm taking away from today is, again, for the 3rd match on the trot, the method feeder, the pellets and the mix, 100% sorting out the better stamp fish, you know, without shadow of a doubt. But I'm still, again, two or three fish short, and when you look that I've gone over 3 hours today without a fish, I'll need to avoid doing that. So that's it. So that was round 5. I hope you've enjoyed following me through this match and this series. If you haven't seen the previous 4 matches, then they're all right here on this channel, and next week is the final match. That is round 6. That is the final match. So it'll be interesting to see the leaderboard after today, but then even after next week's weight, whatever I catch, whatever everyone else catches, it's still going to then rely on what their lowest weight is out of the series, because that will be deducted off their total weight. So it's definitely going to go right to the wire. Well, good morning everybody, welcome back to Poolsbrook. This is the 6th and final match of this autumn series. It's been a very interesting series, and now ready for the final match. There's been another twist. Have a look at this water clarity. The water clarity has been quite clear throughout the league, however we've had some rain this week. Have a look at that. It's gone absolutely chocolate colour. Now everybody what knows this venue has said that that is going to affect it somehow. Potentially they think it's not going to favour the float anglers or the pole anglers, which is what has been dominating, and one or two anglers think that this is going to suit a feeder approach, but this will definitely affect it. As predicted by many anglers, the fishing was incredibly hard in certain areas. There were several blanks, and unfortunately I was one of them. Even though I'd drawn an MPEG with loads of room, I never had a single indication. Interestingly, on my left was Brian Hill, who'd been second in this league right the way through. He didn't have a bite either, so perhaps it wasn't a great area, but there were still some fish to be caught short on the pole in certain areas. And Lee Coop made no mistake from his fancied draw, and he actually put 26 pounds on the scales, which in the overall standings actually jumped him up to second place in the league. Martin had been the runaway leader right the way through this event. He's had an absolutely fantastic series. Yes, he's caught most of his fish on the pole, but he has caught some fish on the feeder, and he's definitely got this place sorted for this time of year. That means that because Lee had jumped up to second, Brian Hill had dropped down to third in the league, and that meant that I remained in fourth place overall in the overall standings, and that means that Gary had dropped down to fifth overall. So my aim was to try and finish in the frame in this very challenging series, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Martin has been a worthy winner. He's definitely got this place sorted, and fishing against such a great bunch of lads every week through this series, it's been thoroughly enjoyable. A huge thank you to Chris Buckley and the lads for running this series, and I really hope to be competing in more matches at this lovely venue next year. I really hope you've enjoyed this insight into me trying to work this venue out, and if you have enjoyed it, please give this one a thumbs up, and please consider subscribing if you are new to the channel. So thanks for watching, and I really look forward to seeing you on the bank again real soon.